Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, replacing garage doors for improved curb appeal and energy efficiency. Details at callmosby.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Consulting a cookbook, even reading one recipe, can be a transformative experience. It might not even be the food, but the author's well-told story that connects flavors to occasions and to people just as much as describing a memorable dish. That's very much why Anchovy Book Company, one of the few stores in the country that sells cookbooks exclusively, exists. It opened in November on Cherokee Street in South St. Louis, and the store's beginnings go back to a story of friendship, a bond between two people over their love of making food. Anchovy Book Company, like its namesake tinned fish, packs a whole lot into a small space. The store itself is just 6 feet wide, but it's chock full of cookbooks from authors nearby and all over the world. To talk about the big dreams that led to opening a tiny store and why cookbooks have such staying power even in the age of the internet, I'm joined by those two friends and the co-owners of Anchovy Book Company, Sara Johnson and Stephanie McKinney. Welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
So I must ask, what was the last recipe that you made from a cookbook that is either in your store or in your personal collection?
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Over the weekend, I made a marinated grilled grape and burrata recipe from Ottolenghi's Simple Cookbook. Mm-hmm. I didn't have everything that I needed, but it still came out. It was definitely better the first time I made it because I had a grill.
Okay. And how about you, Sara?
Well, I just moved, and so I have not been cooking as much as normal. Mm-hmm. But I did make homemade ricotta from Smitten Kitchen Keepers.
Okay.
And I used that to make a salad from Allison Roman's Nothing Fancy. She makes a cantaloupe, ricotta, and crispy prosciutto salad that is like the perfect summer treat.
Okay. So there's some remixing going on, and right. So I want to talk about the project, which started with not the store, but a Vanchovy, like the canned fish. Where did this idea and the name, Stephanie, come from?
Yeah. So about 10, 15 years ago, I had gone on a trip to San Francisco, and some friends took me to Omnivore Books, which is one of the other cookbook stores in the country. And I just walked in, and I couldn't believe that this was a thing, that it was a store just of cookbooks, and immediately fell in love, flew home with 3 cookbooks, and it's just been in my mind ever since. So fast forward to a couple years ago, I was just really thinking about this again and how can I make this happen? And on a road trip back from Colorado, my husband and I were thinking, how can we make this happen without owning a store? So we kind of came up with a mobile concept. And my husband, he is really into cars, and he's like, oh, you should look at these little Honda Acti K vans. They're Japanese imports. So once I knew about that, I just kind of honed in and then looked for K vans across the United States, and ended up finding one in Pittsburgh. So we drove to Pittsburgh one day, bought it, trailered it back the same day, and that's kind of how Vanchovy started. And I knew I wanted to go with the name Anchovy, but again, Graham was like, oh, this definitely needs to be called Vanchovy, not Anchovy. So that's kind of how the van started, and just started doing pop-ups with used and vintage books, just within our neighborhood, and doing a couple events. So,
and when you say our neighborhood, which neighborhood is that?
Yeah, so Sara just moved, but we have been neighbors for the last 5 years, and we live in the Benton Park West neighborhood.
Okay. Is that how you met your neighbors?
No, we actually met through a mutual friend when I moved here from Detroit. So we met probably 12 or 13 years ago at Print Bazaar, of all places, on Cherokee Street.
Oh,
but we
okay.
both have lived in Benton Park West for over a decade.
Yeah. When Stephanie first started talking about what became Vanchovy, it was meant to be if you talked about it with your husband on a road trip. What did you think about that notion, Sara?
Oh, I loved it. And so much that I went to all the pop-ups just to help.
Oh, okay.
And we were in business already together with a little, we have like a very seasonal side hustle. And so it just made sense for me to kind of come and help because we know we work really well together. And so I was very into it from the very beginning and showed up to all the pop-ups, helped
every
move
pop-up.
the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like to sell cookbooks out of a van? Like, was there a certain amount of introduction you needed to do to people, Stephanie?
Yeah, so selling cookbooks out of a van is pretty labor intensive. It is loading and unloading very, very heavy boxes. I think at the first couple pop-ups, it really caught people off guard because they're like, cookbooks? Is that it? And we're like, yes, it is. But I think for the people that are really interested in cookbooks and cooking, they just honed right in and just started following me and were very supportive from the beginning.
So did people have to take turns going inside? How did you manage the traffic? Sara?
Yeah. So the van, everything is set up outside of the van. So so you kind of set up like a little out front of the van for people to walk through and shop. But it can get kind of congested. Also, our shop is tiny, so we're used to that.
Yeah. No, it's great to know that is what was happening, that people were not actually going inside.
Not inside.
Yeah. We want to invite you into this conversation about cookbooks. Is there a cookbook that's got a special place in your kitchen and your heart, regardless of where you got it? What's the appeal of a cookbook you can hold in your hands when there's so much available online? Give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. You can also email us at talk@stlpr.org. So seeing how people were excited about what was offered through this van and through pop-ups, how is it that you two decided that you should turn this into a brick-and-mortar business? Sara?
Yeah, we were at brunch with a friend, and she said, hey, that tiny shop on Cherokee that is available every once in a while is going to be available again. And Stephanie and I both, Stephanie immediately was thinking anchovy, and I just kind of was like, oh, that's kind of fun. And the next day we went to the pool together, Marquette Pool, our little community spot. And Stephanie was like, I've been kind of thinking about the brick and mortar, the tiny space on Cherokee. Would you be interested in doing that together? And I didn't even think about it. I was like, yes, I want to do that so much. I think I had been at that time looking for a way to really use my skills and creativity in a way that felt fun and life-giving. And it felt like the perfect opportunity. So we called our friend like that day. We looked at the space on Monday. We signed a lease on Friday.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we opened 2 months later.
Yeah. The space itself, so this storefront, it's so small. It is a half address. It's 2619 and a half on Cherokee Street. We had said earlier, it's all of 6 feet wide. What were your first thoughts, Stephanie? What went through your mind when you first saw the space?
Oh, I mean, just living in the neighborhood, I have always loved this space. It's such a quirky little space, and so many people have made many things work in there. So I just always had my eye on this space and have envisioned different things going in over the years. So.
Yeah. Between Vanchovy and Anchovy, what is it that customers have told you about why they use cookbooks instead of just jumping online. Stephanie.
Yeah. People just really want to have a physical book in front of them. I mean, I cook from cookbooks and I also cook from recipes online, but it's something about having a physical cookbook, being able to make notes in it. They're covered in little splatters. You have sticky notes or whatever you use for a bookmark, tagging all of your pages. I think that's really important. And I also just really love cookbooks. Some cookbooks I never cook out of. I just read them. And I think there's something special about just reading a cookbook and reading somebody's story about the recipe, the origins of it, or just kind of reading through a recipe. And I enjoy doing that at night sometimes before I go to bed, because if you fall asleep, it's okay.
You can dream about the food.
Yeah.
Rebecca emailed us about her favorite cookbook. The Vegetarian Epicure was the first cookbook I ever purchased, and it's still in the kitchen. Has that been in the van or in the store?
Probably in the van.
Yeah.
But not in the store.
We also have Jenny, who is calling from St. Louis. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Is my phone off?
Oh, I hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. I said my favorite, one of many favorites, is The Joy of Cooking. And the many, many editions that have existed over the decades.
Jenny, who introduced you to that book?
Well, I got it as a Christmas present. Christmas I was engaged in 1963. There are some of my great-grandmother's Christmas cookie recipes in the cookbook. And it's a cookbook that if you don't know how to fix something, go to The Joy of Cooking and you'll find a recipe.
Okay, so it's a bit of a repair shop as well.
Well, but I think of how often, whether it's for boiled custard or baked custard or an angel cake or the things, sort of the classic things that everything's in there.
Jenny, thank you so much for calling. Have you experienced that people will come into the bookstore because they have such a core memory and lots of memories associated with one in particular, that they're looking for something else, either like that or maybe completely different, Sarah?
Yes. People come in like ready to talk about their favorite cookbooks usually. And we'll often say, I really like this one. Here's why. Do you have any others kind of in the same vein? Or, or people who we had someone bring in like a stack of his late wife's recipes and asked, how do I make this a book? And I was actually able to tell him, because in my day job, I do a lot of that.
Okay.
And so I was able to connect him. But it's people who I think just have real connection to like certain recipes, certain books. They are very happy to chat. It's always fun.
Yeah. We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue this conversation about cookbooks with the co-owners of Anchovy Book Company, and we'll get insights into St. Louis cookbooks with St. Louis Magazine food writer Cheryl Baehr. We also want you to be part of this cookbook conversation. Give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 3-to-talk, or you can send us an email at talk@stlpr.org. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. Welcome back. Today we're exploring the world of cookbooks, and doing that with us are the co-owners of Anchovy Book Company, Sarah Johnson and Stephanie McKinney. Now, the world of cookbooks is as vast as the world's cuisines, but cookbooks are also deeply personal, so they're very much about who we are as well as what we eat. St. Louis Magazine food writer Cheryl Baehr has thoughts and local recommendations to share around that, and she's here to do just that. Cheryl, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So we opened today talking with Stephanie and Sara about what they cooked most recently. Now, your kitchen, take us into it, Cheryl. What cookbooks would we find there?
Oh, my goodness. Well, people think that because I do this for a living, I am some gourmet chef and, I have this library of vast cookbooks. And I do have some. I rely on the Food Lover's Companion. I actually love the hard copy of that book. It's less of a cookbook and more almost like a reference guide. What is this word? What am I looking at? So I have always relied on that. But then I really look to my grandmother's written recipes. My mom used to write recipes out on index cards with little handwritten notes. My grandmother did that. So those are the things that I really rely on. I find that the cookbooks I have, the actual formal cookbooks, tend to be a little bit more aspirational, almost like having an art book on your table. So, of course, I have the French Laundry cookbook. I have everything by Ina Garten. I love all that salt, fat, acid, heat. Those are like the fun ones. Am I picking them up necessarily every day to cook out of? Not really, but they're aspirational.
Mm-hmm. And when you say aspirational, is this something that resonates with you, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I talk to people a lot about I feel like there's weeknight cooking and then weekend cooking. So weeknight cooking to me is something that's relatively quick that I can get on the table and I'm not cooking in the kitchen all night. My weekend cooking is something where maybe there's lots of steps to it. There's multiple sauces to go with it. It just takes a lot longer. I'm in a slower pace on the weekend. Usually it's getting together with friends or something like that. So that's how I kind of categorize my cooking is like weeknight cooking and weekend when you have more time.
Weekend cooking is the cook I want to be, and weeknight cooking is the cook I actually am.
So that's the part of the aspirational, right?
Yes.
Sarah, you said you've just moved. What's the first cookbook that you were going to pull out of your boxes
Man. Well, I will say I unpacked my books first before anything else because they are my companions in life. And so my bookshelf and my books are all there. And so my cookbooks are out. But I think the one that I will probably start cooking from pretty quickly is I Dream of Dinner, which Stephanie and I both love this book.
Oh, okay.
It's just really accessible. I think for me, it will be a good way to get into my new kitchen, which is beautiful and big. I've never in my life had that. So I'm like learning where things are. I mean, big to me. Let's be real. And so, yeah, I'll probably pull out that one first. But
And I Dream of Dinner is by Ali Slagle.
yes.
And it's one of the most popular this year.
Yes.
Number 6, I think it is what was posted on your TikTok. Of the books, Cheryl, that have been written by local folks, which have stood out to you and why?
I'll tell you, there's one that actually just came out that I'm finding wonderful is Leah Holter from Made by Leah. She has a bakery in Florissant. She won the Next Great Baker competition several years ago on the Food Network. She has created a book called Everyday Craft Baking. And what's wonderful about it is this is where you get that mix between aspirational and the real world. I truly believe I can make every one of these recipes. They look beautiful. I'm sure they taste beautiful, but she has like a 1 bowl chocolate cake recipe. Anyone can do this, even those of us who are maybe a little intimidated. I find myself to be more of a savory cook because there's some more wiggle room to it. And that's where I find that pastry books are probably the ones I do follow recipes a little closer to. She really lays things out in such an accessible way, and I'm really loving that.
Are there a lot of photographs that go along with that accessibility?
There are. What I find really nice is the way this cookbook is laid out. 1 page is a photo, And the whole recipe is contained on another page. It's not like you're flipping through because this is so complicated. Mm-hmm. So I think it's easy to skim through. It's things that you could really decide last minute on a Sunday afternoon that you're going to cook and tackle. It's really great.
In looking at cookbooks, and I at one time had aspirations of becoming a chef, the books that did not have pictures or illustrations or photos really scared me, because it's hard then to know, like, what do I do? So it's good to hear that there are some of those visuals to help. Now, I understand that the number one most popular book of 2025 at Anchovy is one that is by a local author. Stephanie, tell us about it.
Yeah. So our number one seller is Justine Doreen, her cookbook, and we had been following Justine. Justine Snacks is her website for years now. So we were just like enthusiastically excited when she came out with her cookbook. And it's really cool that she has St. Louis roots. She is now in Brooklyn. But again, she's a recipe developer. She does a lot of recipes for New York Times and also on her website. So her recipes are fun. They are accessible. They can be challenging. But that has been our number one seller.
Mm-hmm. We also have another caller. Barb is on the phone, calling from South St. Louis. Barb, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Thank you, Elaine. This is kind of a nostalgic story. I'm a baker today, and I attribute my baking skills to baking with my mother when I was quite young. And I had a cookbook when I was young called Betty Crocker's New Boys and Girls Cookbook. Mm-hmm. And in the years, I completely forgot about that book and no longer have it. I was in an antique store in St. Charles, and I spotted the cover, and immediately it just morphed me back to baking with my mother. And I had like $1.50 of change in my pocket, and the woman was asking like $3.50 for it. And I was so enthralled in finding this book, she just said, take it. You can have it. And it just, in paging through the book, I saw that recipe for surprise muffins that we made with the grape jelly inside.
That was the surprise.
It flooded me with memories, and I have it sitting in my lap right now, and I'm just so grateful for those years of baking with my mother and to have that cookbook in my hands today.
Mm-hmm. Barb, I first was given a cookbook as well when I was a child. I have no idea what it was called, but I do have very fond memories of flipping through it and then sort of marking what I felt like I could do or that I would be allowed to do.
Right.
In that book in your lap, are there certain pages that are marked, or are there any indications of what the previous owner may have found most interesting?
You know, there aren't any markings, but a few of the pages have those drips and drops that you described. Mm-hmm. So I know it was a well-used book. I looked at the copyright. It's from 1965. So I was 7 years old, and it was new. I'm assuming maybe I got it right after it was published.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to this day, I make probably 300 biscotti every Christmas as Christmas gifts for all of my friends, and put them in ginger jars. So my baking skills continue.
Mm-hmm. And you have very lucky friends, Barb. Thank you so much for calling.
Certainly.
So these connections that people have to cookbooks, Stephanie, I believe that you have a story about a cookbook that has been very special to you, and that is part of the reason you wanted to start Vanchovy.
Yeah, just kind of growing up, my grandmother cooked all the time. We lived pretty close to my grandparents, and my parents cooked all the time. And one recipe that I feel like everybody has a copy of this somewhere in their house, but it's the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. That's the red and white gingham. The copy I have is all taped up with packing tape. But with that cookbook, my mom makes a chicken noodle soup recipe out of there. And that was the chicken noodle soup that we had any time that we were sick. And any that was just her go-to recipe in that. So, good old Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah.
So.
And Sarah, for you too, there is one particular book that speaks to heart and home, right?
Yeah. I Deep Run Roots is a book by Vivian Howard, who is a PBS person, and I read her cookbook from cover to cover. My dad was kind of nearing end of life and had dementia, and there wasn't a lot I could really do other than be present with him and just sit by his side and wait. And so that's what I did. Kind of our last extended time together is I just sat next to him, held his hand, read Deep Run Roots from cover to cover. And to this day, it's like my favorite cookbook. I haven't even cooked that much out of it, but the way she tells the story of her family and her roots and growing up in this little corner of the South, and how that informs her style was just really meaningful to me. So when we say we read cookbooks,
yeah, right.
Like sometimes you really do just read the cookbooks, and her storytelling is just gorgeous. So I think that one is the one for me that I just flip through often.
And Cheryl, you said your work as a food writer doesn't mean you do a whole lot of cooking, but I know that you have a daughter. Do you cook together? And is there a book that you enjoy together? Or maybe are you in the market for one?
Well, I'm definitely in the market for one. So we do cook together. She has taken a lot of interest in being in the kitchen recently. She's almost 12. So she's at that point where she can actually focus a little bit more and, handle some responsibilities with that. I make a very simple tomato sauce, and that is definitely her thing. So I'm passing that on to her, but I'm in the market.
Okay. Cheryl Baehr is a food writer with St. Louis Magazine, and Stephanie McKinney and Sarah Johnson are co-owners of Anchovy Book Company. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This episode was produced by Danny Wissentowski.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STL PR app or wherever you get podcasts.